you for the invitation. I'm going to give you an insight on East Germany, but I think I have to disappoint you right at the beginning because I'm not a scientist and I'm a journalist. And actually there's no real research right now about these topics in East Germany because we just started a discussion about these topics. We were always related with West Germany and with Germany in whole. This has something to do with the picture behind me, which tells a very, very strong story. It tells a story about a united Germany. I'm coming from East Germany as well. I'm from Dresden. I was 3 years when the wall came down. And this narrative is also very strongly imprinted in myself because I grew up in a united country. I traveled a lot and I lived 10 years outside of East Germany. So it was very, very weird for me when in 2015 I went back to a little town where I went to school for 7 years. And it was the year of the refugee crisis in Europe. And Germany decided to leave the borders open to take refugees in. So refugees came also to this little town, and there were very big clashes, like people attacking refugees, protesting against places where they could stay. And I was standing there and I was shocked of what I was seeing because there were like people, like my mother could have standing there together with neo-Nazis. And there was this one man and he was telling me, they didn't take care of us back then, but they are taking care of these people now. They are getting everything, we didn't get anything. And I was like, why are these, who are they, and what do you mean back then? And of course he meant the 90s. He meant the time, the transformation time of reunification of Germany. And for me it was like, I thought, okay, why is this related? Why is this 90s related to what's happening now, that we are taking, it's kind of responsibility, the state has to react and they were taking in refugees. Why is this related now? And it's a sentence I heard a lot, like afterwards. I didn't understand it at first. I didn't understand the place that I once called actually home. So I decided to move back 2 years ago to work in East Germany as a journalist. And these clashes and also the rise of a right-winged party, which is now in several federal governments in Germany, and we had European elections this year. In East Germany, at some places they were the strongest party to be supported. So this put East Germany on the map. Suddenly we were divided again. It wasn't Germany, it was like East Germany. And I was called like from Western German journalists from my redaction. I'm working for a big newspaper that is located in Munich, and they were like telling me, asking me, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? Why the hell why are people voting this party? And where is this coming from? And we were also discussing this among us, of course, like in East Germany. There were so many formats like this in the past years, but only not like with people who were telling their stories, about the transformation time. It was the first time that we had a dialogue. We were like, these people were silent for a very, very long time because they were always told, it is a West German narrative, I think, okay, we are united now, we gave you democracy, we gave you your freedom, we gave you money, shut up. So you're part of us now. We took you in. But suddenly something started to crack open and people started to talk about it. Even my parents, for me in my remembrance, they didn't have so many, like a big transformation because they were like successful even in the 90s. They took their own business and they worked. And there like these talks developed very, very strong narratives, and I just wanted to give you insight on these narratives that are now very dominant in the discussion. So people are traumatized due to the sacrifices they made in the 90s. Millions lost their job. Of course, they were like caught in the social system of the state. We have a good, very good social system. People were like, they were poor. There was a social system where they could very well survive. But of course, losing your job when your work was very, very important, especially in a state like in the GDR, you just suddenly lost your kind of your guidance system. The people are frustrated because politics ignored the inequality between the East and the West on pensions, income, and working days. Imagine you're working 40 hours a week and you're getting less paid, while in West Germany, people are working 35 hours and they are getting the same money. So you're working more, but you're not getting the same money. People are not being respected regarding, they had to actually reinvent themselves in the 90s, and they want this respect, especially from the West Germans, who are always telling them, be satisfied with what you have. There's even a very strong narrative now there's even a book about it. The East Germans weren't taken in, they were taken over by the Federal Republic. And if you look at positions, especially in universities and companies that were settling in East Germany, if you look at who's in charge, it's mostly US Germans. And some of them, I would even say, they wouldn't get very far in West Germany, but they came very far in East Germany. So they made a career in East Germany. Of course, people are frustrated about it, and they were forced. A political system was forced actually on them. Democracy. They feel we couldn't take part in this, and like it's not our constitution. We didn't write it. We didn't take part in writing the constitution, and we took over another hymn. We took over another system. We took over the political system. So the bottom line here is actually nobody took care of us. The state didn't take care of us. We were abandoned. Nobody cared about us, about our stories. The politics didn't care about us. And the right-wing party I was talking about earlier, they are now even pushing it further. They are saying that the democracy we have, it's a working democracy. It's working. But they say it's actually a dictatorship. It's actually suppressing the people in Germany. And the big example is the refugee crisis. They say they forced you on you this transformation in the 90s. They forced you to reinvent yourself, that you lost your job, to live in a new system. And now they're doing it again. They're telling you you have to take in refugees, even if you don't want it. So they are a dictatorship. And if you oppose these positions, it means that your freedom of speech is suppressed. The media is being controlled because they oppose your position. So we are actually back in a dictatorship. And I was asking myself, how could this happen? Why? Because we have actually working democracy. And I think what some points is that politicians, especially Western politicians, who were taking part in this transformation process, they underestimated totally the effects of the 90s on the people. If you also, what is democracy? So the West Germans, they had their democracy. They were building it up over years, over decades. But if you walk around in East Germany and you would ask people what they think democracy is, they have a totally different view. You would hear different stories. Some will tell you it means that they up there in the government, they have to do what I want, and if they don't do it, I go back on the streets, like in the 1990s, like 1989. And that's what the right-wing party actually says. Go back on the streets. We have to take over the system because they are not doing what you want. So they think the people, we are the people, saying back then, it's now a threat. So if you're not doing what we want, we're going on the street, and that's actually what's happening right now. If you ask others, they would say democracy means I can be a part of the society, I can build it up, I can be part of a civil society, I can vote, I have freedom of speech, I can say whatever I want. So it's it's kind of a learning process. What is actually democracy? And right now we're in a discussion. What is democracy? What are our values? It's a very interesting, but also frustrating, exciting time for us. And one point I wanted to make in regarding civil society is also that we underestimated in the 90s and also in the 2000s, also still very, very, still there as a perspective, is that in the 90s, the people who were like, who were supposed to be part of this new democracy, like mayors, but also institutions like courts and the police, they didn't know what their position should be in this new democracy. We saw that, for example, teachers and politicians, they thought being in a democracy now means being neutral. They didn't want to take a stance against anything or for anything, because in the GDR time, everything was political, and they are relating being political to being indoctrinated. So when we had a lot of clashes already in the 90s, in the 2000s with neo-Nazis, I can tell you it was normal to have huge demonstrations and protests by neo-Nazis in the 90s and also in the 2000s. What they did, they looked away. They said, okay, we're just ignoring this. They're gonna go away somehow. We're not taking any stance. I'm neutral to this. And this put a lot of harm actually on the civil society, which was already very, very weak. Because as we heard yesterday, a lot of people also moved away from East Germany. They went to the West. And so there were few people left who were like able or had the courage to stand up. And they were defamed actually by mayors, by the police, by institutions, even the courts. They were getting after them. There were a lot of in front of courts. There were like a lot of cases against protesters. And I was part of these protests, so it put a lot of harm on me, also on my mental state of mind regarding East Germany, that I was like seen as the aggressor and not the people who were like opposing the democracy. Thank you very much.